It doesn't start with a siren. It starts with a whisper. A bank wire out of Macau. A ship's transponder switching off in the Sea of Japan. A train manifest in the Russian Far East, logged as ceramic insulators. Separately, they are noise. Together, they are a footprint. This is the footprint of the new hidden arms empire. And what we have uncovered is that the shadow deals between Moscow and Pyongyang are not just fueling one war. They are building the framework for a new global crisis. If you think this is just about Ukraine, you are dangerously mistaken. The full story shows how this network was designed to be permanent and how it could ignite flashpoints across the entire globe. On this channel, we don't just report the news. We connect the dots others can't see. If you want to understand the hidden power network that is redrawing the map of the 21st century, you are in the right place. Stay with us to the end to see the full architecture of this empire. 4 months, the whispers were just that. The sanctions were in place. Both states were supposed to be isolated. Russia needed shells. North Korea needed cash. In public, both denied it. But on the ground, the evidence became undeniable. Ukrainian soldiers found different ammunition. The casings had machining marks that Russian plants don't use. The propellant smelled different. The serial numbers didn't match Russian records. Labs compared the fragments. The verdict was clear. These were North Korean-made. But how did they get there? The answer lies in a logistical masterpiece of deception. Russia built layers of cover. Ghost companies in Hong Kong. False bills of lading registered in Panama. The routes ran from Rajan, North Korea, not just to Russia, but through a new shadow network, a new axis. Containers were stacked with legal goods on top. Food, timber, coal. Beneath, under tarps, lay shells, rocket parts, and radar gear. Detecting them required more than a cursory port check. It required a thread to pull. Western intelligence found that thread in the wires. A cyber unit cracked a cache of encrypted traffic between Russian logistics officers and North Korean trade officials. Manifests, payment notes, vessel GPS pings. A map was formed. The numbers were staggering. Over 3 million rounds of artillery. Dozens of missile components. Radar systems. A $1.5 billion lifeline. For Pyongyang, it was hard currency. For Moscow, it was survival. Then, a ship made a mistake. The Onyx trader, flying a Liberian flag, made an unscheduled stop near Vladivostok. Russia called it a technical problem. But analysts had already tagged its manifest. The paperwork read, seafood processing equipment. Satellite imagery showed something different. It showed crates being unloaded under armed guard at a military pier. The same crates that later appeared in depots near the Ukrainian border. Satellite data confirmed what the intercepted messages suggested. At least 6 North Korean vessels had slipped into Russian ports in recent months. Some switched off their transponders mid-route. Some reappeared with altered names. Each delivery matched a spike in Russian artillery activity days later. The pattern left little room for doubt. And this is where the story shifts. It shifts from a simple sanctions violation to a global crisis. The analysis of the payments showed something far more terrifying. The money wasn't just for shells. The payments were for technology. The bank wires showed Russia wasn't just buying, it was teaching. They were trading satellite launch data, submarine designs, and nuclear-capable bomber technology, all in exchange for ammunition. This is not a simple arms deal. This is a technology for munitions swap that fundamentally destabilizes Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. This is the pivot. If you've been watching this far, you understand this is no longer just a regional war. This is the blueprint for a new global crisis. The why behind this deal is more terrifying than the what, and that is what we will detail next. The UN Security Council convened emergency sessions. South Korea and Japan demanded new sanctions. The US and the EU backed the call. They warned banks, insurers, brokers, and shipping registries, "Help this flow, and you will pay." This was logistics warfare on a global scale. Allied cyber teams didn't just target depots, they targeted the financial arteries. Accounts were frozen. Insurance firms and brokers widened their checks. The London Maritime Insurance Network flagged risk profiles. Meanwhile, surgical strikes, guided by the intercepted manifests and satellite imagery, hit storage sites in the Russian Far East and near the border. Smoke rose from depots in Belgorod and beyond. Stockpiles burned before they could move west. The supply shock spread. But the real impact was in Pyongyang. Kim Jong-un didn't just get cash. He got rocket science. He got impunity. He learned he could sell his aging arsenal to a superpower and get advanced technology in return. What happens when he sells those same missiles to Iran? To Hamas? To Hezbollah? What happens when his new satellite, launched with Russian help, can target cities from Seoul to Tokyo? The deal didn't ignite a crisis. It already has. It gave North Korea a green light to become the world's premier arsenal for pariah states. The price for shells in Ukraine is a turbocharged, nuclear-capable North Korea and a newly emboldened Axis. The lesson is stark. Moving vast quantities of arms secretly is hard. The more routes you use, the more crumbs you leave. A camera, a receipt, a radio call, a manifest typo. Any can unravel a system. Western intelligence turned that reality into a weapon. It learned to think like logisticians, bankers, and soldiers. It fused cyber work, human intelligence, and kinetic strikes into one campaign. This hidden arms empire wasn't built in a day. It was built on the world's distraction. It was built on the belief that sanctions were enough. This operation proved that the only way to fight a shadow network is to expose it to the light. The bank wire out of Macau didn't just lead to a ship, it unraveled a global conspiracy. The shadow deals between Moscow and Pyongyang are redrawing the map of the 21st century. The war in Ukraine was just the catalyst. The crisis it has created is permanent. The information we shared today is just the beginning. To understand where this global crisis goes next, you need to stay connected to those willing to pull the thread. Follow our work as we continue to expose the empires they don't want you to see. Join us so you don't miss the next chapter. The world has changed. The Axis has been formed. The only question now is, who else will join it?